Hello and welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I'm your host, the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Codo, aka Codo Man. Well, I'm pretty sure we all heard of sports films, right? Whether they're based on true story or simple underdog stories, or just your general sports film. Well, there is one film, or should I say film franchise, that is an underdog story, and that will be the Rocky franchise. The franchise itself focuses on the character Rocky, played by Sylvester Stallone, who started out as a club fighter who gets a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship against heavyweight champion Apollo Creed, being played by Carl Weathers. The film itself, the first film that came out in 1976, made a name for Stallone after writing and starring in the first film. The popularity will go on to spawn sequels and spin-offs, including a catchy theme song, Gonna Fly Now by Bill Conti. There are 5 Rocky sequels and 2 spin-off films that focuses on Apollo Creed's son, Adonis, so that is one big heavyweight franchise to watch. Now, despite these films, there is one film out of the Rocky franchise that has gotten a lot of attention and popularity just recently, and that film will be Rocky IV. Now, before going into Rocky IV, I have a couple guest stars on the show with me, so... First of all, we got Christian Taylor back on board. Third time's the charm, huh, Taylor?
Yeah, I know, and it feels good to be back. Like, this is a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to get a little history lesson on this franchise because, plot twist, I have not seen any of the Rocky movies. I know, right?
Boy,
I'm a movie lover.
I know,
I haven't
but
seen any of these.
I mean, hey, it's also good to learn new films. And I also got another guest on board. He also works for WEIU Newswatch as a weather anchor, and he's one of the football players from the EIU Panther football team, and that is Stephen Elmore.
Yes.
Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I remember talking to you about the Rocky IV release back in September. Today's my birthday, so yes.
Yeah, happy birthday.
This was what I wanted to go see when it got released a couple months ago, and I'm so excited to talk about one of the greatest movies of all time, Rocky IV.
Yeah, technically it's easily one of the greatest films. Now, actually, upon its release, it had more of a mixed reception, but over time, it got better over time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like we were talking about before this, like Rocky I, you see Sylvester Stallone, coming from nothing. He's not a name in Hollywood yet, but he sticks to his guts and says, I'm going to play my character that I created, Rocky Balboa. And it starts from Rocky 1, gets even bigger with 2, 3, and then 4, wraps it all together, and it is marvelous when it came out. I mean, it was beautiful.
I mean, yeah, that is a very big thing for Sylvester Stallone, and that's how he became the actor and superstar that we know and love today.
I mean, after Rocky, you've got, he goes into, a Rambo, and then he has so many other roles that he builds from Rocky. Rocky's his rock where he starts from, and he builds a career, and, is, this well-renowned actor in Hollywood now. Everybody wants to grow up and be like Rocky Balboa when they grow up.
So, going into Rocky IV, as I mentioned, the film itself got a mixed reception, but gotten better over time, and it has grossed over $300 million worldwide, becoming the highest-grossing film in the Rocky franchise. So that is very popular to say the least.
And it's one of its own. I mean, Chris, you could talk about this a little bit, but you see movies have, like we've been talking about the Halloween movies recently, where you've seen. They create these movies over and over and over again, and sometimes they have to, die out. They have to stop bringing in new fans. But we're talking about the 4th movie in the series, and it is blown up and it is now well recognized as the best one in the whole thing.
I mean, and also, what also makes it probably one of the best is the music alone. I mean, Vince DiCola has a pretty good score in this film, and it's got a good 80s beat to it. It's almost like you're in a Rocky Balboa musical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, I was wanting to add, I feel like with this series, it's not like, you ever notice today, it's like with sequels, it's like when they make movies nowadays, they focus more on making the next film instead of making a good movie first. I feel like with the Rocky franchise, each one had so much love and effort put in. Like, they were focused on making the movie. They weren't thinking about sequels down the road. They just wanted to make a good movie.
It just happened to be the fourth movie of the Rocky Balboa story.
Yeah, and plus the fourth movie also led up to the spin-off starring Michael B. Jordan, known as Creed.
Yeah, so it's like, thanks to the Creed spinoffs, like the fourth film is now more. You could say it might be the most important film in the franchise because a lot went down in that one, you know.
And Creed draws a lot of people too because, you know, obviously his father, Apollo Creed, you know, Rocky's first rival that he has. And people continue to be drawn back to the Creed story because of the nationalism behind it. It's the red, white, and blue. It's the USA. People want to see USA win in these fights. And to have USA versus Russia, especially when this movie first came out, it was, you know, it was a big time. That was the big time deal back then.
And that was a big time deal. Now we're gonna get that again in the director's cut, which was first announced back in 2020 from Sylvester Stallone, since he was the director of Rocky IV, and he was planning to release this to commemorate the 35th anniversary, and this includes extended fight scenes, a funeral scene for Apollo Creed. But unfortunately, if you all are familiar with the robot from the fourth film, yeah, the robots will not be in the director's cut.
Yes, so the robots are left out, which I'm okay with.
Yep.
But 40 extra minutes of this historic movie is being released in theaters November 11th today. So to grow up as a kid and watch Rocky IV for what it is, and now when it was first released, everybody now is like, you know, in their late 20s, heading into their 30s, or even older.
Yeah.
Like, to hear that 40 extra minutes of this great movie's coming back out, everybody wants to go see what was cut out the first time.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, there's probably a lot of scenes and moments that were definitely cut out. And that's why we are getting this director's cut that is coming out this year. Now, as I mentioned, it was supposed to come out in 2020, but I think Stallone was still working on the finishing touches of the film, which explains why he pushed it back to 2021. Though it would be nice for a 2020 release date to commemorate the 35th anniversary because it came out in 1985. But hey, you know, sometimes it takes more time.
Absolutely.
I think the wait will be worth it, though. This film is so popular. I feel like the fans can wait another year. I think it'll be well worth the wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I mean,
I had to wait 3 years for Halloween Kills to come out, so it's like fans, when they love a film, they will wait patiently for the next film to come out. Like, they'll wait. Like, the fans are loyal, so it's like they'll wait however long they have to until they get the next one. So,
right. I mean, that's the point. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of films that are also being patient with sequels too.
yes.
especially with Creed 3, which is coming out in 2022. Yeah, so Creed 3 is coming out, and again, you can continue to build this story because of what was created, the story that was created based off in Rocky 4. You don't have a Creed story that everybody falls in love with if you don't see Rocky 4, where Apollo Creed is fighting Drago early on in the movie, and you see Rocky has the towel in his hand, and people are begging him, throw in the towel, throw in the towel.
Exactly,
and you see
yeah.
Creed die. So we see a main character die in the fourth movie of this, and it's like, wait a minute, like what? Apollo Creed's dead now. What am I going to expect for the last hour and 45 minutes left of this movie?
Yeah, in fact, I mean, because Apollo promised Rocky to not throw the towel no matter what.
Right. So Rocky's sitting there. You can see in the corner of him looking between Apollo Creed's coach and looking at his wife, and everybody's screaming for the American side, because obviously this fight scene takes place in Russia. So this is it's built up to where Drago can't lose. And he says, you know what? Don't throw in the towel. I'm going to beat this guy. He's that cocky, American, Apollo Creed swagger type of thing.
Right.
And he goes in there and he gets pummeled. And obviously, everybody's seen Rocky 4 here. He dies in the ring, and Rocky takes all the blame himself for that because he didn't throw in the towel.
Right, because Apollo Creed promised Rocky to not throw in the towel, and on top of that, I mean, Yeah, that's basically crazy. And I also want to say this as a little fun fact about that scene. Dolph Lundgren, who plays Ivan Drago, threw Apollo Creed towards the corner of the ring. I mean, you could definitely see it in the film. He almost walked. He actually almost quit the film. He barely quit the film because of it.
Really, I did not know that.
Yeah, that was actually a little brief fun fact history for the production of it, because I think they were basically getting too aggressive. So Stallone wanted Carl Weathers and Dolph Lundgren to reconcile and tone down the aggressiveness. And actually, Stallone told Dolph Lundgren to tone down the aggressiveness. So
okay, so in the production, we even have the fight against Creed and Drago still develop. This is not even for the movie. This is like in production.
Yeah,
so
and part of the
continues
production
to build why we can have. We have Creed versus Drago 1.
Yeah.
And then we have Rocky versus Drago obviously at the end of that movie. And now we're going to have one movie. The first Creed movie was his son in Apollo. Everybody wants to see the next generation.
Right.
So you've got 3 movies just right there, including this Drago name that was just created in Rocky 4. And it is loved by characters as the villain. People adopt this guy as the villain of these movies.
I mean, right, exactly. In fact, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad Carl Weathers and Dolph Lundgren were able to calm down, reconcile, and continue filming. That's a good
Obviously,
sign,
if those two don't work it out, we have no Rocky 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
I'm glad Stallone was able to step in. Now, basically, with Ivan Drago, I mean, Dolph Lundgren was a newcomer at the time. I mean, obviously, he's a Russian boxer in this film, and right out of the gate in the beginning of the film, he's being interviewed by journalists questioning on how Ivan Drago is being trained to fight as a boxer, especially with the use of because this is also coming out of the time with the technology and the quote unquote enhanced performance substances.
Yeah, I mean, so when Drago's first introduced to us, there's all these computers and like needles, and they dump just baby oil all over this 6'8" like boxer guy from Russia, and he's made to look like this robotic a character to where he's undefeatable. I mean, he's punching walls and he's working out and stuff. And again, the baby oil is ridiculous in these scenes to make him look massive.
Yeah.
And then they cut back to Apollo, and he's just doing his own thing. He's training the way he normally does, and it's almost giving that feeling that Drago is like lab created. He was created in a lab. For
and
boxing.
to quote the trainer from Ivan Drago's trainer, whatever he hits, he destroys.
And of course, the famous line, "If he dies, he dies," by Drago. So
And,
again,
yeah.
lab created, monstrous character that is giving the persona. It's impossible to beat this guy.
Right. And while Apollo and Rocky, they were trained from whatever they can use, whether it's at a workout center or even like out in the field.
Exactly. So, if we're cutting back later to the towards the end of the movie now we're gonna focusing on the Rocky and Creed aspect of this. Obviously, Rocky has to avenge his best friend.
Right.
His best friend was killed in the ring by this big Russian boxer who, in Rocky's opinion, he tried to kill him. And that's what everybody believes what happened. So he killed his best friend in this ring. Rocky feels the guilt of not throwing in the towel, so he's got to get the revenge and fight Drago to avenge his friend.
Right.
So,
and Rocky had to give up his championship for that.
Right, exactly. And you cut later into the movie, and you see the different training that Rocky took. It's no longer the running down the street of Philadelphia up the stairs. It's in the middle of middle Russia, like cold snow. He's grows this big old beard. He's got the heavy winter coats on and stuff, and he's just training like Drago is. He's adapting.
Yeah, exactly. Because especially when you have songs like the training montage, which is an instrumental song, including Hearts on Fire. Those are probably two of the best songs out of this film for a training montage. Unless if you could count There's No Easy Way Out and the war instrumental song. Yeah,
I mean, so the music obviously plays a big role in the movie, and it kind of helps develop the character of Rocky. You see the change in his persona of having to go from kind of this almost top of the world type thing. Like in the beginning of the movie, you see him in his white shirt, and he's got like 3 buttons up down. He's got his gold chain and stuff. Rocky is on top of the world at that point, and he's helping coach his best friend Apollo Creed at this time, and and towards the end of the movie, you see the complete flip. The switch flips, and he's back to this. It doesn't matter. I have to focus on my training to defeat whatever character it is. In this case, it's
even his wife Adrian, Talia Shire's character, is worried about Rocky because she believes that Rocky can't win. That's because from what we all saw in the film of how Ivan killed Apollo Creed.
You know, I actually saw that scene on TV when I was a kid, flipping through channels, and for some reason, it's never left my brain. Like, I just remember her standing on top of the staircase, and she's just like, "You can't win," and just the expression he gives, like, it's like he doesn't care. He's gonna go down swinging to try and avenge his friend. That just really hit me for some reason. I hadn't even seen the others, and that scene just really hit me in the feels, because she's worried that he's going to get himself killed.
There's no easy way out. There's no easy way out, and because Rocky's gonna do it, whether he wins or loses.
Yes.
Yeah, and you see the character develop in Adrian as well. The first couple of movies we see her, she's just quiet, She falls in love with Rocky and everything like this, but now she has developed into this strong character, telling Rocky you will die if you fight Drago. She's almost not even on his side anymore. But again, we were talking about, Rocky's not going to give up because he has to do this for his best friend.
Exactly. There's no easy way out for him, but I know that Rocky's going to do it, especially in that song. That's also the name of the song, by the way. There's no easy way out.
Right.
Showcasing of Rocky, the flashbacks between Rocky and Apollo, including a mirror shot of what looks to be Rocky's death that connects to what Apollo went through. So yeah, that was a few definitely a few flashbacks, especially with Mickey too, because Mickey was also the trainer.
Yeah. So not having Mickey anymore, it's kind of like he's adopting that role in the beginning of the movie. Apollo needs a trainer, so he steps into that leadership role. Now he feels like he's let everybody down. He feels like he's let Mickey down in some aspects because obviously he did the number one thing a trainer can't do. And when you see your fighter going down, you have to throw in the towel.
Right.
He was following his best friend's request, and we all know how that kicked off the movie. So.
Yeah, that really kicked off the movie pretty well. And leading up, and now going into the training sequence, Rocky and Ivan are doing different training montages. Because the scene cuts back and forth between Rocky and Ivan. Like you said, Rocky is out in the tundra, in the snow in the middle of Russia, training with a heavy coat, all bundled up. He even runs. He even helps some people out. He even climbs up a mountain. And Ivan's also in the gym, in his own gym, lifting weights while also using the enhanced performance substances. Well, from his trainers and. Both of their trainings showcase of how capable they are, especially when they're going to be prepping for a fight.
Yeah, so it kind of, at the beginning of the movie, we see the same training sequence for Drago as we do at the end of the movie. He gets stronger by the end of the movie, but the initial fight against Apollo and Drago, that training sequence is created to show oh my goodness, he is, he's unbeatable. He's this robot type thing. At the end of the movie, when we see it again, and it's a lot harder for Drago now, it doesn't really take that much of an effect for the viewer of the movie because we know it's fake. We know he's not a real boxer. He obviously is, but he's been designed by the Russian government to be this way. And I see cutbacks to Rocky actually, like we said, going back and saying, no matter what else is going on in my life right now, I have to train and get this caveman-like training in so that I can do whatever it takes.
And he did. I mean, I saw the beard from Sylvester Stallone. I mean, hey, Christian, you want to add anything to that?
Well, it's just like my whole thing. It's like I also did see the training scene from 4, and I did see snippets of the training sequences from like 1 and 2. So it's like just thinking about that. It's just like what a progression in the story. It's just like you go from running in the streets of Philadelphia, now you're running in the mountains of Russia. It's like talk about like character development and stuff. Like gosh,
that is absolute character development, especially between Rocky and Ivan. Now, cut back to Creed 2. I mean, Creed is out in the middle of the desert, training as well after being beaten by Victor Drago. So that's also a connection right there. That's a huge connection right there.
No matter whether you're watching Creed 1 or 2 or any of the Rocky movies, the most iconic scenes in the movie are the training scenes. You see them originally starting off, not really focused on their training. They're down, they're taking it lax and stuff. Something happens, whether it be Apollo dying or whatever it may be, Mr. T coming in 3. It's something switches to where they go back into the lab and they have to start training themselves to get back in shape to beat whoever their opponent is.
Right. I mean,
that scene is in every single one, no matter what it is, because that's what everybody looks for.
And I say these are inspirational scenes right there because it convinces you that, hey, you may be struggling, but you do know you gotta like build your way back up. It's not an easy task because you can't just like grow muscles in one day. You gotta build up to that.
Yeah, and a good example of that is definitely like I know Rocky 6 wasn't received as well, but everybody does talk about that scene when him and his son are talking outside the restaurant, and his son's blaming him for his life being so weird because like everybody who talks to me, they only do it because you're my dad, and he's like, you're pointing fingers, you're finding someone to blame, and he goes on that speech like the whole world's not all sunshine and rainbows, it'll beat you to the ground if you let it, but I think it's something like it's about how many hits you take and keep moving forward. It's something like that,
right? And that's what Rocky did in Rocky 4.
Yes.
He kept going until he finished his training. Like at the top of the mountain, he gets to the top of the mountain, he screams, "Drago!" Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Oh, by the way, isn't there a quote that the Russian guy says? He's like, "I must break you," or something.
Oh, like we mentioned earlier, it's if he dies, he dies.
Yeah, he does.
He's prepared to kill.
He does say that.
Yeah.
And going into the fight, let's jump into the final fight. Ivan versus Rocky. That's easily the best fight in the film.
Mm-hmm.
This series, I mean, there's no better fight than we've all been waiting for this. It feels like Rocky 4 is almost 2 movies in a way.
Yeah.
Because you see the first big fight where you think, oh, this is happening way too early. Obviously, this isn't the final fight. What's going to happen here with Apollo and Drago? And then you get another round of that with Rocky and Drago. So.
Right, and especially with the fight, it's kind of like a David versus Goliath style fight.
100%.
And it really shows because Rocky was struggling at first with the fight because Ivan, being the Russian boxer that he is in the film, really came out swinging.
Yeah, and Rocky knew that he was going to come out swinging. He had to take his licks to start off with. But if he kept going, like, the Rocky persona is supposed to give up, you never give up. You keep fighting. And finally, he starts to wear down Drago, and Drago gets tired. This is the first time that Drago's ever lost anything. He's losing momentum now.
Right,
usually
he does.
Drago's used to, okay, first round knockouts, boom, or killing somebody in the ring.
And especially when Rocky lands the blow in Drago's face, like, you can hear the announcer saying, "Cut! The Russians cut! It's a bad cut! And now Rocky's coming in swinging!"
Yeah, so that's the first turning point where it's like, okay, Drago can be beaten.
Drago's wife noticed that too. Drago's wife, being played by Brigitte Nielsen, noticed that too.
Yeah, and I mean, her character, that could be, that's a whole other story, but we see her character, that's like the first time where we see her not really faithful, and she just is there because Drago's the greatest boxer in Russia.
Yeah.
And obviously that plays a role in the Creed movies later on, when we see Drago raising little Drago all by himself because his wife basically leaves him because he's no longer the greatest boxer in the world.
Right, and
Okay. I was wondering about that because I was watching scenes for number 2 with him, and I'm like, "Where's his wife at?" Well, that explains that. Oh,
yeah, because Drago at the end of the fight, Drago lost the fight, but he still fights his way. He still does his best to keep standing. I mean, you can see that, and for Rocky 4, you can see that as he goes through all 12 to 15 rounds. Especially when you have the music in the background, the instrumental music war is playing in the background as the fight keeps going and going.
Yeah, we see Drago change from that robot in the first couple rounds to almost he turns into a person now. We see character development in Drago where he doesn't care about anything else. Now we see him come alive. It's no longer the robot, face, like if he dies, he dies. It's his actual heart beating now, and he can't let anybody down because he's fighting literally for his entire country. We see earlier in the movie where he sits down with the Russian government, and they're like, "Well, you're gonna beat Rocky, right?" And he's like, "Of course, I'm gonna beat Rocky." And everybody's expecting him to be a first round knockout, and it doesn't happen. So now he's fighting for his life, basically.
Yeah, he does. I mean, especially in the final round. In the final round, I mean, it's like they're both tired. Both Rocky and Ivan are tired because they've been fighting each other. Now it's like, yeah, Rocky's got the win. Now Rocky's got him because now both of them as humans, human beings, they're both trying to finish off the fight.
Right. It turns into just a slugfest at the end. It's, the last man standing is going to win this thing. And obviously, being Rocky 4, we kind of start to see who's going to win this. But the first time you're watching it, or if you're watching it in theaters, again, I'm going to be that same kid again, watching this Rocky movie for the first time when extra 40 minutes comes out. It's like, oh my gosh, Rocky is not known as the best fighter. Obviously, we think of him as the best fighter, but Drago's persona is the unbeatable one.
Right.
And now it's like, wow, hard work and dedication can get you anything. That's basically what that movie is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, it's like what I like most about the film is Rocky literally pushes himself. It's literally his physical breaking point in that final fight. It's like. Talk about a prime example of pushing yourself. How far can you go? It's like, okay, I'm going to keep pushing, keep going and going and going and going. That's a prime example.
And that's where you find sympathy for both characters. Now we have something that both characters are fighting for in that final scene. When it comes down to the last wire, we have Rocky fighting for basically America to start off with, and he's also fighting to avenge his best friend Apollo Creed. Okay, so that's why he got into this thing in the first place. Now we hop over to Drago's side. Again, he's already met with the Russian government. They're basically paid for everything for him to be created to what he is. So, number one, he's fighting for Russia, but now he's also fighting for his own personal pride because he knows if he loses this thing, nobody cares if he loses anymore.
I mean, that's where we had the Creed sequel came in, when Ivan Drago came into Rocky's restaurant, he told him he lost everything, his home, the loss of respect for the country, including his wife. But now he's raising a son who knows how to fight.
Yeah, and I mean, the Creed series. I mean, if you do the Creed series, I'll come back. We'll talk about that again.
Yeah,
that scene is interesting because you see, the two Dragos walk in. Mr. Drago and Drago's son coming right into the building, and they're torn up. It looks like they've been living homeless for years, and that's because they have. After Drago lost to Rocky, he was abandoned by his country. Nobody cared about him anymore. So you have to imagine what that creates the lifestyle for Drago's son, who has to grow up in this persona with, my dad's the biggest loser in Russia, but he's also a monster, so I have to defend my father.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even Rocky, after the fight in Rocky 4, makes a speech you can change.
Yeah, he tries to change Drago's mind. He tries to say, "Hey, like you don't have to be like this." But Drago's mindset is, has been altered and changed to where it's win or I am nothing, and so he loses and he turns into nothing, basically.
Yeah, basically he turns into nothing, and that's basically probably a life lesson. Like you either move on from it or stick to the past, because as of now, Drago is stuck in the past now, and that's basically something. And if you move on to bigger, better things.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, like in my opinion, it's like I can relate to him on some things, because I know what it's like to lose a lot. It's like you feel like you've lost like literally everything. It's like, okay, where do I go from this point forward? It's like I can imagine most people could probably be like, yeah, been there. Maybe not to that scale, but I've been in situations like that.
Right. And now with Rocky IV, the director's cut coming out, let's see how that film will turn out.
Yeah. It's like now that this director's cut is coming out, I think I'm actually going to binge all the movies. I think I'm finally going to do it. I think this film is probably this is coming out better time as any, I think, to get into this series. Now, I had a quick question. So, do you guys know any information about the extra 40 minutes, like what it's going to be?
So Mark mentioned it a little bit earlier. So what do we have exactly? We have extra funeral scene.
A funeral scene for Apollo Creed, and some extended fight scenes that were either cut out or edited out of the film.
So my own research is the same thing about it's like the fight scenes now are kind of the gory stuff that was cut out of the scene.
Yeah,
kind of like the blood and the spirit that we don't really need to see, because obviously this is a international movie. You can't really put that stuff in there. But now with the director's cut, he can kind of do whatever he wants with it, and he wants to show kind of the more gruesome portions of the fight. So I'm excited to see how much he put into that fight. Obviously the Apollo funeral, because we don't get to see that.
No, exactly. I totally forgot about that, because Apollo Creed dies. We never got to see his funeral. In fact, I don't even know if they ever mentioned his son, because even though it does lead up to Creed, I don't even know if they ever mentioned his son.
I could be completely wrong, but I do believe in Rocky IV, Creed is born. I think he's just a baby. He's just born, and he never gets to meet his dad because he's like a couple months old. So
that could be a good reason. I don't know that. It probably would have tied in a little better. But hey, the film came out in 1985, Rocky IV. But now we got the director's cut. So at least there might be something to fill in the plot hole.
Yeah, it's just like the whole thing that really amazes me about this whole thing. It's just the fan base. It's like, think about it. This film is 35 years old, and it's like the fan base is insane. 35 years later, it's still reaching to all kinds of new generation. It's like, your film is good when it's still doing this big 35 years later. You know? Like that just blows my mind.
That does blow everybody's mind. And right now. So anyway, that pretty much wraps up for Rocky IV, including the upcoming director's cut of that film coming out for today. That comes out today.
Yeah, 40 extra minutes comes out today in theaters only, so it's gonna be great.
So anyway, I still believe Rocky IV is easily one of the greatest Rocky films, Rocky sequels, I should say. Stephen, what do you think?
Oh, it's the best Rocky sequel. It's one of my favorite all-time movies, and also just hands down, you can include the Creed movies in there as well. Rocky IV is the greatest movie that they put together.
I agree. Christian, what do you think?
And also, I was wanting to add, it's like, if you look back to like other franchises, usually by the time the fourth installment shows up, it kind of starts to go down in like style and film. A lot of franchises don't do that, so it's like for a franchise to still be good by the fourth film, like, that's pretty cool. It's kind of rare nowadays. Like, sadly, nowadays, it's like you're lucky to hit 3 movies, So
yeah,
for your fourth installment to do that well, like I think that shows like how good of a writer and And what a great creative mind you have.
I
would
mean,
say.
and that is a very good point. So anyway, Steven, Christian, thank you for joining my show today.
Hey, absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for tuning into Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo.
Christian Taylor.
Stephen Elmore.
All right, remember to watch movies and stay positive.